we started doing these weekend seminars across North America. In 2009, I did about 40 weekends in different communities. But one of the realizations we had, we were talking with Dr. Jackson about that before, is that really, in order to have the benefit spread wider than just what we call, we have this thing called the BHI, the Beard Hijab Index, right? You go for a general program, it's all the bearded brothers, the proper hijabi sisters, but really to spread the benefit beyond just those circles, right? And also so many other challenges of people just being very centered around their own suburban communities, or just to have much to have a much more broad representative reach. One has to do the da'wah and the outreach oneself, right? So one of these programs to get the word out and so on. So we've gathered, actually there's people who've come from I think 10 different cities for this this weekend meeting. Some of us came from Toronto. Sidi Shahid Constantino, who's Brazilian Canadian, but he lives in Seattle. He's flown in from there. Sidi Tariq Masidis come from Cincinnati. Sister Lena Taha, who's in our finance department. She used to be in Boston, but now she's in St. Louis. Sister Jifreen Zaman's come from New York. So we've got people from Sheikh Yahya came from the Bay Area for the meeting. So we wanted some nasiha in terms of how we can the effort that we have in spreading knowledge would have benefit, and people would be affected from it. Because one thing we've noticed from your right from early 90s when we started attending your lectures, and back then you're an old timer. Right? They're the new speakers and scholars, and then there's the old timers. Right? What we've always found is in your teaching, even if you deal with a very simple subject, you always find benefit, right? And it always affects people. So what are some of the keys for people to have benefit and to benefit from the effort that they're engaged in da'wah and in spreading Islamic knowledge?
Actually, let me tell you something. One of the things we talked about today, we just left the masjid, is us being real with one another. And the reason I say that is that I had a conversation recently with an imam who just became a new imam, 27 years old, and he gave me some reality. And I think that many of us are extremely naive, and I certainly don't mean you or this group, but I mean us in general, especially the older generation, about the reality of the people that we deal with. And I think that usually these are the group of Muslims that are practicing. But this is the minority. Reality, brother, when you look at our ummah, we're in trouble. There are overwhelmingly more people who do not attend the masjid than who attend the masjid. So when you start looking at that, when you start looking at the small percentage of Muslims who go to Muslim schools, I mean, maybe 5% if we're lucky. So you're talking about 95% of the Muslim youth, they're not getting Islamic education, right? So how are we getting to them? We become an elitist. We become an elitist because only the richest of the Muslims can afford to send their children to Muslim schools. We're the other ones going to get the education. And what I've been doing lately has been doing a lot of time listening to the Muslim youth, especially to the teenagers. We got to get them. When I think about the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, is that Allah gave him, a special knack to go after the people. And it's not like some people. It's not a group of people. See, what we're doing is we're missing a huge segment, or certain segments of the ummah. They're out there. No one is going out there reaching out to them and bringing them. This is why I was just telling Dr. Jackson about this brother out of Houston, Texas. His name is Mujahid Fletcher. I don't know if you heard of him.
I think so.
Latino brother from Colombia. He has a knack of going after the people in the street, the people in the mud, which is important. And I think someone's asked me about Elijah Muhammad, Nation of Islam. They didn't have the right Aqidah. I think Professor Jackson, he wrote some things about that. They didn't have the right Aqidah, but one thing, he was loved by the people because he went after them, and he cared about them. And I think one of the keys is the verse in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّكَ لَا تَحْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Here's a prophet going after his beloved uncle Abu Talib. And Abu Talib, he's trying to say La ilaha illallah, right? On his deathbed. Come on, man, say it. If you say it, at least I can argue on your behalf with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Give me something, man. Give me something. Give me La ilaha illallah, right? So he dies. And Allah says he knows. You love him. I know you love him. إِنَّكَ لَا تَحْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You can't guide whom you love, right? But my point is that making the effort and going after. After you meet here, I think it's important that you go after the people that's left behind, somehow to reach out for them. And that's the only advice that I would give. That's the only nasiha that I would give. To just قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ إِنِّي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ إِلَيْكُمْ جَمِيعًا. And he's the messenger of Allah to all of us, and not just some. But we in, you know what I mean? We in little groups and forgetting about the masses. It's good. I'm not saying don't do it, but don't do it and stop there. Do it and then go out and reach.
But that's sort of with our weekend educational program stuff. We're trying to do it when we go to a community, to really try to reach beyond just the masjid going, the practicing crowd, and part of it, some of those people you could attract through programs that seem relevant to them, but also some of it requires proactively going to high schools, going to different youth groups, etc. Also trying to do sort of leadership training for some of these youth, right? And we're trying to engage in some of that, and so the purpose of these weekend meetings is sort of to get our plan and stuff, and to work on that. But that's what worries us, right? Because religiously it's a fard kifaya, right?
Yes.
The fard kifaya is not just to preach to those who are already practicing,
exactly,
but that it's to those who've not been reached, right? And to try. But in terms of trying to reach those people, what would be some of the things to?
There's a brother in this area named is Halim. You know Halim, young brother?
Yeah.
Huh? You know Halim?
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the young brothers we had gotten to work with the manor a couple of years ago. And the thing that's good about him, now some may call him to the other extreme, but he's been having meetings with those Muslims who kind of left, not coming to the masjid. They don't say they're not Muslims, but they're out there, and they've been having retreats with them and things like that, and that's been effective because they're coming out now, they're doing things together. So it's trying to reach out to different people, and I think with network, if you make sure I get your number, and there's a few people I can kind of put you in contact with, and I think mixing with them, talking with them, I think that'll help.
I'm sorry if I can just two things.